Welcome to the Improving Performance of Students with Disabilities web module series. This series of web modules was developed by the SELPA System Improvement Leads. The purpose of the SELPA System Improvement Lead project is to work collaboratively within the statewide system of support to build the capacity of special education local plan areas, or SELPAs, and local education agencies, or LEAs, with the common goal to improve outcomes for students with disabilities. In Module 3 of the Improving Performance of Students with Disabilities web module series, we will introduce the first phase of the improvement process, Prepare. The Improving Performance of Students with Disabilities Handbook was created in partnership by the El Dorado County Office of Education and Sacramento County Office of Education for publication by the California County Superintendent's Educational Services Association, known as CSESA. The handbook provides resources and guidance for leadership teams supporting school staff to understand the California School Dashboard and use the data presented in the dashboard to make adjustments to programs and services for students with disabilities within an improvement process. The Improving Performance of Students with Disabilities Handbook is divided into 4 sections. Section 1, California's Accountability System. Section 2, Supports for Students with Disabilities. Section 3 is Improvement, and Section 4 is Toolkit. A downloadable copy of the handbook is attached to this module for reference. The guidance in the Improving Performance of Students with Disabilities Handbook was based on 6 guiding principles taken from known effective program elements necessary for students with disabilities and a recent 2015 statewide task force report on special education entitled One System: Reforming Education to Serve All Students. The task force report can be found on the San Mateo County Office of Education website at www.smcoe.org. The 6 guiding principles are: 1. General education and special education work together seamlessly as one coherent system. 2. Educational programs are organized within the context of a multi-tiered systems of support, or MTSS framework, to ensure academic and behavioral supports are provided for all students. 3. Instructional programs incorporate high-quality, standards-aligned, evidence-based practices and use of principles of Universal Design for Learning, or UDL. 4. Data systems are integrated to combine relevant information from state and local assessments, including formative and summative data, universal screening measures, and anecdotal observations from parents and teachers. 5. Site-based teams monitor progress, identify interventions, and adapt instructional practices and behavior supports to promote success for all students using evidence-based systems of inquiry. And 6. Programs are culturally and linguistically responsive. The ideas from these principles formed the foundation of the handbook, which will be further explored through this web module series. 4 separate web modules have been created to assist schools in gaining a deeper understanding of the contents within the Improving Performance of Students with Disabilities Handbook. The 4 web modules are: Module 1, California's Accountability System; Module 2, Support for Students with Disabilities; Module 3, Improvement Process Part 1, Prepare; and Module 4, Improvement Process Part 2, Launch, Reflect, and Adjust. This web module addresses the first of 4 phases in the improvement process, Prepare. Launch, Reflect, and Adjust will be addressed in Web Module 4, the last of our web module series. The following topics will be reviewed in this module: features of planning and improvement processes, types of local education agency and school level plans, guidance for improvement teams, use of data, analysis, planning, and improvement, overview of developing a problem statement, tools for completing a root cause analysis, questions for identifying evidence-based programs and practices. Involvement in the improvement process cycle allows schools to develop a coherent system for implementation, improvement, and reflection. Regarding improvement as a cycle ensures schools and LEA teams build and sustain coherent systems that provide ongoing review and assessment, focus on plans to improve overall performance, promote equity for all student groups, implement action and services that address targeted areas of needs, and evaluate improvement efforts to inform next steps. In general, the planning process incorporates input from stakeholders, measurable goals, improvement timelines, identified leads, allocation of fiscal resources, selection of tools to monitor improvement, and student performance. Questions to ask your team can include the following. When considering input from stakeholders, what methods should you use? Methods may include focus groups, teams, already structured stakeholder groups, and surveys. When writing measurable goals, the goals should be clear and specific. Otherwise, you won't be able to focus your efforts or feel truly motivated to achieve it. When drafting your goal, try to answer the 5W questions. What do I want to accomplish? Why is this goal important? Who is involved? Where is it located? Which resources or limits are involved? When setting improvement timelines, consider whether the timeline is realistic. Do you have checkpoints? Who's monitoring the timeline? When identifying leads, consider whether all groups are represented. Do the leads understand their roles and responsibility? Do you have time built in for leads to collaborate? There are a number of factors to consider when allocating resources, including knowing your scope. Before you can allocate resources or manage them, you have to determine the scope of the plan. Is it a big or small project, long or short? Before you can allocate resources, you have to ensure you have them. Therefore, it is also essential to identify your resources. Make a list, then make sure it fits within the budget allocated for the plan. Don't procrastinate. In a planning process, teams are encouraged to take time to consider where and when you might have a blocked team member or task dependencies. Think holistically. Focusing too narrowly on the process may lead to neglecting what is actually unfolding. Track your time. Keep a close eye on the time, how your team is working, and if they're being efficient. Don't over-allocate, and be realistic. While it's good to practice to be prepared for issues that might arise in your project, avoid adding too many people or days to your schedule. Have a routine. Set a regular check-in, say a specific day and time every week, to go through your resources, check your tools, and make sure no one is overtasked for the week's work ahead. During the prepare phase, consideration of some or all of these questions will guide the improvement process and ensure that preparation is comprehensive. Did all of the appropriate stakeholders provide input and feedback on the plan? Are the goals aligned to the data? What is the intended result of the actions to be taken? Are timelines reasonable? Will individuals assigned to the task be able to implement the actions? Do they have the necessary level of authority, knowledge, and skill for the tasks? Are sufficient resources allocated to support the full implementation of the plan? How will the plan be monitored for improvement and effectiveness? Each of these questions tie back to the key elements of the planning stage: input from stakeholders, measurable goals, improvement timelines, identified leads, allocation of resources, selection of tools to monitor improvement and student performance. An array of improvement plans exist to support improved outcomes for students. These plans all involve some component of the improvement planning process, including input from stakeholders, development of goals, implementation timelines, and allocation of resources. In Web Module 2 of this series, the LCAP was discussed. The Local Control Accountability Plan, or LCAP, is a 3-year plan that describes the goals, actions, services, and expenditures to support positive student outcomes that address state and local priorities. The LCAP provides an opportunity for local educational agencies, or LEAs, to share their stories of how, what, and why programs and services are selected to meet the needs of their students. There are 5 components: the story, LCAP highlights, review of performance, increased or improved services, and a budget summary. Single Plan for Student Achievement, or SPSA, is a school-level blueprint to improve the academic performance of all students. SPSA specifics are also included in the federal program monitoring process. A well-developed SPSA is aligned with the LEA's LCAP goals and priorities. Performance Indicator Review, or PIR, is a plan aimed at improving the performance of students with disabilities as it relates to the state indicators. PIR is one of 4 CDE quality assurance process activities. All 3 plans have a direct impact on improving the performance and outcomes of students with disabilities. Additionally, schools must provide a free, appropriate public education, or FAPE, in the least restrictive environment to eligible students with disabilities. When a student with disabilities is formally evaluated and is found to be eligible for special education services, an Individualized Education Program, or IEP, is developed. The IEP is a legal statement of services that the school or district will provide to the student. The members of the IEP team usually include a school administrator, the student's special education and general education teachers, a teacher with expertise in English learner issues if appropriate, the evaluator of the student's eligibility for services, the student's parents, and possibly the student. Interpreters must be present for parents who are deaf or communicate in languages other than English. Effective improvement teams dramatically increase the likelihood that implementation will continue over time and achieve the desired outcomes. Improvement teams provide an internal support structure to move selected programs and innovations through the stages of the improvement process. They also ensure that the improvement infrastructure is effectively used to support the programs and practices. Without an improvement team, there is a 14% chance for the effort to actually be implemented, and it may take 17 years for this to occur. With an improvement team, there's an 80% chance that the improvement effort will reach full implementation within 3 years. During the prepare phase, improvement teams play a critical role in maximizing improvement efforts. Improvement teams established an aligned and linked teaming infrastructure that can help integrate, sustain, and scale up innovations with fidelity over time. The improvement team increases the likelihood that interventions will be effective and program, practice, or initiative will still be implemented with fidelity after 3 years increases to 80%. These teams support and sustain the widespread use of evidence-based practices by leveraging improvement principles and using systems change best practices. Improvement teams, in essence, make it happen. Improvement team members should represent a variety of stakeholders and different perspectives. Improvement team members might include general education teachers, special education teachers, other certificated staff such as counselors, psychologists, or related service providers, site administrators, special education administrators, classified staff, parents, community partners, or representatives. A minimum of 3 to 5 individuals serving as core improvement team members is recommended. Other individuals may be invited to participate in improvement team activities from time to time based on their expertise. However, these individuals may not have the same amount of time to participate in ongoing work, such as between meetings. 3 to 5 team members assist with sustainability. As individuals leave, remaining members of the team can carry on while a new member is brought on and learns the complex set of skills required of improvement team members. For smaller schools, it can be challenging to identify members of the improvement team due to limited capacity and resources. However, it is important to remember that improvement teams need to represent a variety of perspectives and areas of expertise. Improvement team members should be familiar with the data and identify a problem that is driving the implementation of a new program or practice. Improvement team members should not simply be responding to data or problem that was identified or analyzed by another person or group. Ideally, improvement team members have a firm understanding of the data and assisted in using data to develop a clear problem statement that will guide the team's work. They should be informed about improvement processes. Team members should be well versed in the key component of the improvement process and systems change, regardless of the specific framework being employed by the site or LEA. The team should also make good use of the improvement process to continually identify and address challenges and barriers to effective improvement. They should be agents of change within the school and community. They work with multiple levels of the system to create hospitable environments, cultures, policies, guidelines, data systems, and funding streams. Lastly, they should be aware of the role and responsibilities of improvement teams. Team members must understand their role as described previously, including developing an implementation structure, assessing and reporting on fidelity and outcomes, building leakages with external systems, problem solving and promoting sustainability, identifying data needed for analysis of program efficiency. Ultimately, the improvement team is responsible for ensuring that the improvement happens and that the innovations and implementation methods achieve the intended outcomes at the student level. One improvement team is not enough to ensure excellent outcomes for all students. To use effective innovations on a useful scale requires a thoughtful arrangement of teams. While this may seem complicated, keep in mind that the improvement teams make use of the same active improvement framework at each level. Each team is charged with doing its part to support the work with various levels of the organization, engage in activities that ensure the overall improvement infrastructure is developed to support staff in delivering innovations as needed and improving outcomes for students, sustain the innovation over time and across staff, scale up the innovations over time and across units, ensure continuous improvement of fidelity and student outcomes. An infrastructure of linked improvement teams contributes to creating coherent and aligned system functions. By working together with the singular focus on the quality of instruction and classroom management, the teams can help create a culture of innovation with good outcomes. An infrastructure comprised of linked teams can help reduce isolated silos that typify large systems. By working simultaneously with multiple levels of an education system, improvement teams can help encourage greater integration, coherence, and focus to the system as a whole. By aligning activities and functions with desired outcomes for students, improvement teams and leaders in education can build a lasting capacity for responsible change. Improvement teams make data-driven decisions to identify appropriate levels of support, select evidence-based practices, and provide timely interventions that result in increased success for students with disabilities. Once data analysis activities have been completed and the root cause or problem has been identified, improvement teams review this and select evidence-based practices to address the problem or problems. A wealth of information is available for improvement teams to use when interpreting data. Reflect and Ask Why is a recursive inquiry process that may provide a place to start. Using a process such as Reflect and Ask Why reduces the tendency to look for the easiest, most obvious explanation for a problem and transitions from an objective analysis of top-level data to an in-depth analysis that relies on contextual knowledge. When improvement teams take the time to reflect and ask questions, they step back from their own assumptions and expertise and begin to question why things are the way they are and why we are doing what we are doing. Taking the time to reflect and ask why can be challenging. A lack of time coupled with pressures to move forward is often an impediment to an in-depth inquiry process. Inquiry processes may also be difficult because of a reluctance to ask questions and examine past practices. When teams do not take the time to reflect and ask questions, they risk continuing to invest financial and human resources in actions that will not deliver results. Before getting started, access your school's data from the California School Dashboard. Accessing additional data sources via the CDE website DataQuest or your local student information system is also recommended. The Data Observation Tool and the overall Data Observation Sheets provide a framework to assist your improvement team. Templates are provided for each of the state indicators on the dashboard along with a series of guiding questions. Both tools, including detailed instructions for completing and analyzing each, are attached to this module. When using data in the preparation process, ask why. Asking why helps with transitioning from problem statement to determining root causes. This also helps identify all the contributing factors, add context, and connect systems and symptoms as being interrelated. Asking why also allows the improvement team time for thorough questioning. The team will need to stay persistent asking why when analyzing the data in the preparation process. Tools to assist the team in the preparation process are detailed in the handbook. The MTSS rubric provides an important lens through which the team can analyze a problem. The elements of the MTSS framework ensure that the problem is examined from the context of all systems necessary for academic, behavioral, and social success of students with disabilities. The fishbone diagram and the 5 why analysis form are graphic organizers that may help teams analyze factors that could contribute to the root cause. These tools are linked to MTSS components and allow teams to view problem statements in a broader context. The toolkit includes examples of completed fishbone diagram and a 5 why activity. During the observation phase of the inquiry process, a specific problem statement will emerge. A specific problem statement is a factual claim about a problem that exists based on the data. It's usually one sentence, but may include additional information in order to provide context. The statement explains what the problem is and who has the problem. A problem statement answers the question, what is the problem? It's written in the form of a statement. It may make comparisons to trends in the data or a statement of quantity. For example, 70% of our low-income students are not meeting standards in mathematics. Graduation rates decreased for all student groups compared to the prior year. The suspension rate for African American students is much higher than that of any other student group. The pitfalls a school may encounter as they develop their problem statement include participants making inferences about why the problem is occurring or jumping to identifying solutions to the problem before they've accurately identified the problem. A hypothetical scenario from an improvement team using data in the preparation process developed the following problem statement regarding students with disabilities. Students with disabilities who are also long-term English learners in grades 7 through 8 performed on average 70 points below their non-students with disabilities and English-only students with disability peers in mathematics in 2017. Their performance declined significantly from the prior year. This example of a problem statement is worded objectively. It quantifies the problem, specifically identifies a student group, compares student group performance, and indicates trends in performance. It does not identify what might be causing the problem. No inferences are made about the reason for their performance. It simply states the problem. Once a specific problem statement is developed, the team transitions into the second stage of the inquiry process and relies on contextual understanding of the district, school, and community factors. Several cycles of data analysis, observation, and questioning may be necessary to uncover the root cause. Root cause analysis assumes that systems and events are interrelated. That is, an action taken in one area impacts the outcome of another area. Successful identification of root causes of a problem hinges on an investigation of all areas that could potentially contribute to the problem. Next are tools to support teams with root cause analysis. As schools engage in discussions to determine the root cause or causes of the problem, the elements of MTSS can keep the discussion focused on the elements of the system, not the people within the system. Referring earlier to the sample problem statement, students with disabilities who are also long-term English learners in grades 7 through 8 performed on average 70 points below their non-students with disabilities and English-only students with disabilities peers in mathematics in 2017. Their performance declined significantly from the prior year. Elements of MTSS, such as the quality of professional development opportunities or inclusive policies and practices, help to focus the discussion on the design of the system that is resulting in students with disabilities who are also long-term English learners performing lower than their peers. By examining the problem statement from each of the key elements of MTSS, the team may discover that the root cause is due to fragmented support systems not working in alignment to meet individualized student needs. An MTSS approach ensures students with disabilities receive high-quality, standards-based, culturally and linguistically relevant instruction in the general education classroom setting, a setting with high academic and behavioral expectations, differentiated learning, and student-centered learning experiences. Using the lens of MTSS to identify the root cause of a problem is challenging, but essential to finding sustainable solutions that will lead to continuous improvement for students with disabilities. Please refer to the attached MTSS rubric resource for examining progress within MTSS to help teams assess practices and determine whether site or LEA level supports are at the beginning, emerging, proficient, or exemplary stage of implementation. The process that schools engage in to identify the root cause or causes of their problem uses the 5 Why analysis tool in combination with the fishbone diagram. In each of the small rectangles, school staff record the categories of MTSS they would like to further explore as areas that may contain their cause of their problem. Schools may select additional categories that are not from the MTSS chart but as facilitators, it will be important to help the school identify categories that focus on the design of the system and not the people within the system. The larger rectangle is where the school records the identified root cause within the MTSS category after they have completed the 5Y protocol. The sample problem statement introduced earlier is recorded at the top of the tool, and the MTSS category is recorded in the box labeled Fishbone Diagram Area. In this sample, the categories listed are pedagogy, curriculum, ELD program, and assessments. However, to align to MTSS, core instructional program could be entered in this box. The 5Whys protocol begins with asking the question, students with disabilities who are also long-term English learners in grades 7 through 8 performed on average 70 points below their non-students with disabilities and English-only students with disabilities peers in mathematics in 2017. Their performance declined significantly from the prior year. Why is that? As the discussion continues, each response to the question, "Why is that?" is followed by another, "Why is that?" The purpose of this questioning strategy is to persist through a line of inquiry until an underlying root cause is revealed. You'll know you've identified a root cause when you uncover a design in the system that is acting as a barrier to achieving higher results. It will be a cause that is within the school's sphere of influence. Keep in mind that a root cause may or may not be identified for each category as schools pursue the different lines of inquiry. The school will complete one 5Y analysis tool for each category identified on the fishbone diagram. The fishbone diagram has room for 9 categories. However, the school may identify more categories or fewer categories to explore. Each root cause that is identified is recorded in the respective category on the fishbone diagram. Once the improvement team has developed a problem statement and conducted a root cause analysis, the process of selecting an evidence-based program or practice begins. Use the additional resources listed on this page to select interventions that have evidence demonstrating effectiveness. Consider programs with strong evidence, moderate evidence, or promising evidence, and select interventions that can be implemented effectively for the setting and student population. Also consider your school's grade span, demographic characteristics, and student groups to be served, such as students with disabilities or English learners. Additional considerations regarding funding, human resources, and specific knowledge and skill levels of staff and leadership support for implementation will also need to be made. After the prepare phase, the improvement team will work through launching the plan and ensuring implementation of identified goals. The improvement team will then move through the reflect phase by analyzing the effectiveness of the improvement plan. The last phase, adjust, is when the improvement team will consider how to proceed and identify next steps. Web Module 4 takes a closer look at the launch, reflect, and adjust phases of the improvement process. Thank you for viewing Improving Performance of Students with Disabilities Module 3. As mentioned in the beginning of this module, a downloadable copy of the handbook and any resources are attached to this module for reference. We hope you'll join us for our 3 other Improving Performance of Students with Disabilities modules.